Wherever you are in the world, welcome to another edition of Jerry's Take on China. Of course, I'm Jerry. Over the last week or so, I've watched the news in Australia and I've followed the approach to the Victorian state elections with interest. I've noticed Murdoch press, they seem to denigrate Dan Andrews, the incumbent state premier, at any opportunity they can. And for weeks leading up to the election, media has been suggesting Andrews would lose in a landslide because of his stance on COVID-0, which has led to an upswell, apparently, in his unpopularity. Except he won, and he won very well. Now, media begrudgingly accepts that their narrative was not the reality. What a surprise. Look carefully at these words. The media narrative was that Labour, Andrews' party, would lose and lose badly. The narrative was that Andrews was unpopular and his term as Labour leader as well as Premier of the state would be over. But it isn't. How is this possible? How did all the media outlets get it so very wrong? And the answer is simple. They didn't get it wrong. They weren't reporting facts to the public. They were attempting to sway public opinion to their point of view. And there's a valuable lesson for all Australians coming out of this, all Americans and Brits for that matter. In Victoria, they failed for one reason only, because they were reporting about Victoria to Victorians. Victorians know better. They live there. They know Dan Andrews had told them the truth, and despite media reports to the contrary, they couldn't find the lies. Andrews told them that lockdown for COVID was absolutely necessary, and while most people didn't like it, they knew it was right. They didn't need media to tell them what they thought. They needed media to give them the news, and when they knew they weren't getting news, they ignored media. Media weren't reporting facts. They were reporting stories. Victorians knew this, but people outside of Victoria believed the stories. And this all helped to sell the newspaper and gain the clicks. But it can't possibly help their credibility when the media gets it so wrong. ABC, News Corp, Fairfax, they're all suggesting the problem wasn't their analysis or their reporting, nor was it the success of the Labour campaign. It was the failure of the opposition to capitalise on the misery of the lockdowns, which they say was caused by Dan Andrews' policies. So Australians can learn from this. When you live in a region and you know how your life is, then you know what you're reading is misinformation. You may not know why, but you absolutely know that it is. And that begs the question, why does anyone believe anything they read in the news? And the answer to this is one of modern day's most interesting dichotomies. We don't. Ask almost anyone. They'll tell you they don't believe what's in the papers. Unless, of course, it's something we want to believe, or it's something we know nothing about and can't verify. I live in China. I know press write negative stories every day about China. Before I came to live here, I was fully aware that the Chinese government were authoritarian and the place was a police state. I knew there were predatory practices going on and people in China were unhappy with their government. And I knew all this because I'd read it in the news and I'd seen it on the TV and the internet. So it must have been true, except like Victoria, it wasn't. And today, people in Sydney, Brisbane, and all around Australia, people who don't live in Victoria, are wondering, how was that information so wrong? Well, it's exactly the same with China. Most Australians don't live in China, but a few of us do. Most of us never even visit China. But when we do, we found, as I did, the media reports on China are not true. Just as Dan Andrews was not at all unpopular, China is not at all authoritarian, nor oppressive. Predatory practices aren't part of Chinese culture, but most importantly, as proven by Harvard University and others, most people here like, respect, and appreciate their government. So next time you're reading a media report telling you what's wrong with China, just remember those same reporters, their editors, and the publishers have been lying to you about pretty much everything that you do know about. Why would they tell you the truth about anything you don't know about? Thank you for watching, and please like, share, subscribe this very short video that is on Jerry's take on China. See you again next time. Bye for now.